Have you ever agreed to do something, even when you really didn't want to? Or, felt totally guilty for absolutely no reason after talking to someone? Well, what if I told you that might not actually be your fault? Because the truth is, you could be getting manipulated without even realizing it. You see, the most dangerous kind of manipulation, it isn't obvious shouting or controlling or physical force. No, it's incredibly subtle. It's the kind that sneaks up on you and makes you feel like everything is your own idea, or worse, your own fault. Okay, let's get right into section 1, the invisible trap. What is manipulation? So, simply put, psychological manipulation is when someone influences your thoughts, your emotions, or your decisions for their own personal benefit. And the kicker, they do it without you ever catching on. Instead of trying to control you directly using logic or reason, they just bypass your defenses entirely. And how do they pull that off? They control how you feel. Moving right along to Section 2, the Manipulator's Playbook, Common Tactics. All right, ever heard someone drop phrases like, "You're overreacting," or "I never said that, that never happened"? Yeah, that's gaslighting. When someone gaslights you, they are actively denying your recollection of events. And they do this purposely to make you question your own memory, your perception of reality, and honestly, ultimately, your sanity. Then we've got guilt tripping. Just imagine this for a second. You're exhausted, right? So you try to set a perfectly healthy boundary. You say, "Hey, I just need a night to myself to decompress." But they respond with something like, "Wow, you've really changed. You just don't care about this relationship at all." Boom. Suddenly, it's no longer about you taking a well-deserved night off. It's about you having to prove that you care. So you end up saying yes, not because you want to, but simply because they made you feel bad. Next up is love bombing. Now, this one is tricky. In the beginning, they just shower you with intense affection and attention. You feel incredibly special, attached, and completely dependent on their praise. But then, and here's the catch, they use a tactic called dosing. They suddenly just pull back. This abrupt withdrawal leaves you totally confused, practically chasing that same attention just to get back to that initial high. And that brings us to stonewalling, or the silent treatment. They totally ignore you. But listen, this isn't to take a timeout and find peace. No, it's to actively punish and control you. The psychological effect of social exclusion is actually profound. Slowly, you'll start blaming yourself for their silence. You'll find yourself apologizing even when it's not your fault, just hoping to make the quiet stop. All right, Section 3, the psychology of the trap. So why does this work so well on us? A massive piece of the puzzle is something called FOG, which stands for fear, obligation, and guilt. Manipulation works because it plays directly with your emotions, not your logic. Because you don't want conflict and you genuinely care about the relationship, your brain just wants to avoid the pain. This creates a literal mental fog, basically forcing you into compliance. And then there's cognitive dissonance. Basically, this is the intense mental discomfort we feel when our beliefs completely clash with reality. You see, in manipulative relationships, the person isn't cruel 100% of the time. They have these moments of extreme kindness. So to restore mental balance and avoid the really painful reality of the situation, victims will often deny the abuse entirely. They start questioning themselves instead of the manipulator. And look, research absolutely backs this up. It proves that this type of manipulation is incredibly commonplace, highly calculated, and deeply damaging. According to an executive summary on psychological violence, a staggering 91% of survivors had experienced it, almost everyone. It creates this extreme dependency, making the victim feel completely responsible for the manipulator's toxic behavior. To really understand the heavy toll this takes, just listen to this powerful testimony from a survivor in that same study. Quote, "It was like psychological terrorism. It was just like someone infiltrating your brain. And I used to describe it as, he had my brain in his hands." I mean, wow. That just validates how severe and utterly exhausting this unseen mental manipulation truly is. Which leads us to Section 4, spotting the signs, why we miss it. Okay, so here are the core signs that you might be getting played. Ask yourself, do you feel constantly confused after conversations? Do you keep apologizing even when you're not totally sure why? Do you feel guilty just for saying no? Or maybe you constantly doubt your own thoughts. And above all, you feel completely emotionally drained around this person. If you are checking these boxes, there is a very high chance you are being actively manipulated right now. Finally, Section 5, reclaiming your power, how to protect yourself. The good news, you can protect yourself, and experts actually suggest a powerful 3-step approach. Step 1, name the guilt trip directly. Literally just say out loud, I'm not okay with being guilt tripped over this. Step 2, use silence as a boundary. Strategic silence, actively choosing not to engage in their crazy circular arguments, is an incredibly strong emotional boundary. And step 3, empathize but hold firm. You can say something like, I know you're disappointed, but my bed is calling me. You acknowledge their feeling, but you absolutely do not drop your boundary. Remember, you don't need to pick a fight, you just need to become aware. Take a pause before saying yes to things and don't feel the need to over-explain yourself. But most importantly, trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Avoid reacting instantly to their emotional provocations and just trust your gut. Now, I want to leave you with this. Not everyone who manipulates you is inherently a bad person. Sometimes it's just a learned behavior, but that absolutely does not mean you should ever allow it. Understanding manipulation doesn't make you weak. It makes you aware. I really hope this explainer gave you some tools to protect your own mental space. So take a hard look at your own relationships. Who in your life is pulling the strings right now?